Susan, calm down.
I just heard on the radio that millions of people have disappeared.
Susan, calm down.
The whole country's under a national emergency, Jim. Jim, this is what Michael was telling us. It's really happening.
But when it does come, it will happen suddenly and without warning.
Are you okay?
I'm sure. I was just listening to a tape.
Oh, well, it looked like you were really into it.
Did you girls have a good time?
Do you want jelly or honey? Here you go.
Thank you.
We got a tape from Michael today.
A tape? Of what?
He was talking about the end of the world.
What's the end of the world?
Look, Cody, there is no such thing as the end of the world.
But how can we know that?
Well, Callie, for as long as I can remember, there have been people coming along every once in a while who predict that the world's about to end. They get everybody all upset, nothing happens, and then everybody forgets about it. And it's happened that way for 1,000 years, and look, the world is still here.
Imagine millions of people disappearing instantly from every part of the earth. People from every walk of life. The results would be disastrous. Planes would fall from the sky as pilots disappeared. Governments would be crippled when leaders could not be found. People would search desperately for their loved ones. The police could not even begin to deal with the problem. You would think that something like this would convince people that what the Bible has to say about the future is true. But the Bible predicts that there will be other explanations. And that rather than turning to God for answers, most people will turn to other people, choosing to believe what is false.
For those of you who have just joined us, we are reviewing the events of the past 14 hours. We are speaking live via satellite with Robert Slosser, political correspondent for the Washington Tribune, Judith Ferguson, religious editor for the Los Angeles Examiner, Lewis Powell, religious editor for the Dallas Post, and Dr. Russell Ramji, professor of psychology at Northeastern University. Ms. Ferguson, while many are panicking, you see what has happened today as a potentially positive development.
What has happened here today is not unprecedented. Some have proposed that the evolution of human life is a design of a higher force, and at certain points in the evolutionary process, human life has been guided through quantum leaps in its development. As we study these leaps in the evolutionary process, we find that they are always preceded by a sort of selective elimination. I believe this is what we have experienced today, and that we are literally on the very threshold of a new age in the evolution of human life.
And what is your position, Mr. Powell?
I believe that what we have seen today is the return of Jesus Christ for his church. And that according to the Bible, those of us who have been left behind are about to experience a time of tribulation such as the world has never known.
Ms. Ferguson, apparently you do not agree. Would you like to respond?
Well, perhaps Mr. Powell is not aware that the International Council of Churches is already polling its membership and has discovered that a significant number of those belonging to the Christian churches are still with us.
Mr. Powell?
When I speak of his church, I don't mean those who have their name on the membership roll of a church. I'm speaking of those who have truly placed their faith in Jesus Christ for their salvation.
Lewis, if that is really what you think, then why are you still here?
Excuse me, Mr. Powell. Before you answer that, we need to pause for a station identification. We'll be right back.
Atco Raceway and Ben Pillow Performance Centers are starting a war on wheels. Wednesday night, June 21st, 8 p.m. Atco kicks off the hottest summer.
Mr. Powell, before the break, you gave us your opinion that the millions of people that have disappeared today are true Christians. If that is so, then Ms. Ferguson has put forth a very fair question in asking why you are still with us.
As a child, I was taught the biblical position that I have explained to you. Unfortunately, I rejected most of what I had been taught until today.
And so as of today, you have changed your position?
Yes, I have.
Out of curiosity, Mr. Powell, where does that leave you now?
As I have stated, I believe that we are about to enter a time of suffering and turmoil such as the world has never known. Many Christians believe that this will last for 7 years. At the end of this time, Jesus Christ will return with his church to rule and to judge the world. Those who have remained faithful to Christ will be saved, and those who have rejected Christ will be judged accordingly. To answer your question, I am terrified at what I know I will go through during the next 7 years, but with everything that is in me, I intend to persevere and remain faithful to Christ.
Dr. Ramsey, we haven't heard from you.
Miss Anderson, I believe it is very irresponsible of Mr. Powell to express such a fatalistic opinion considering what we have experienced today. It is not inconceivable that a large portion of the world is
Yes, she is. Who's calling?
This is Bill Schreiber with Golden Oaks.
Jim, I've got it.
Mrs. Cummings, this is Bill Schreiber with Golden Oaks.
Yes.
I'm calling about your parents. Mrs. Cummings would confirm that your mother and your father were among 19 residents who disappeared this morning. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cummings.
Yes.
Miss Cummings, this day has been difficult for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
If it's all right with you, what I've suggested to other relatives of those who are missing is that I get back with you in a few days to deal with this in more detail.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cummings. I'll call you in a few days. Bye now.
Thank you.
Susan, something's happened here. We just don't understand. But it's happened to just lots of people. And for all we know, Susan, Cody and Michael and your parents could come back just as quickly as they disappeared. And there is an explanation for this. But until we know what it is, we can't fix it.
Good night, Dad. See you in the morning.
Good night, Callie.
Oh, good night, sweetheart.
Sweet dreams.
Love you.
I love you too. Well, what did you think about the tape?
I still think the best thing to do is just back off. He's going through a time of self-discovery and exploring new ideas, and if we try to tell him how to think, he'll just move farther away. We saw that the last time he was in. I think if we just let it alone, it will pass.
I realize that what I've said on this tape may sound incredible. But it all comes down to this. Jesus promised that one day he would come back for all those who truly believed and trusted in him. But you can't wait until that day comes to decide what you believe. Because when it comes, there won't be time to make a decision.